This video that I'm posting has taken me a bit to finish on reconciliation after a separation. So stay tuned and see what takes place in this video. So my husband and I met when we were 21 in 1993, married when we were 23 in 1995. I didn't tell him that I had been with a second person before him, intimately, and he found out, and so his dreams were crushed. So my husband and I, Raul and I, have had struggles since the first few months of our marriage. But we continued trying and moving forward, and he decided that he did not want to divorce. So we kept moving forward, kept wanting to work in churches. We ended up moving to a small town, which was wonderful because there we actually found community. And we were there for 9 years, maybe 10 years, but for 9 years we worked in the church closely with the pastor. We practically lived there. So my husband worked full-time plus worked there. At some point, well, let's just go back here. My hopes was that he was going to be able to forgive me and love me. And he tried, but it just didn't happen. Now, of course, he didn't want to get divorced, and neither did I, even though I did tell him when he found out that he is free to marry or to divorce, and he could probably get an annulment, but he said that it's too late now because he had already had sex, and his dream was for both of us, him and his wife, to be the first one to have sex together. And I understand that. I understood it to a point, but I didn't understand how disillusioned he was. We had hopes of a marriage, a family, and to be in ministry. And we did have all of that, but we didn't have joy a lot of the time to go with it. We started out with the children's ministry, which we both loved, but his desire was to eventually work with the adults, and that did end up happening. He became the assistant pastor. Now, from us, studying at a missionary college, our hearts were to serve, whether we got paid or not. So at this, which we didn't realize that in the future, if we weren't at this church, it was going to affect us in a negative way, because people here in Canada, probably the US as well, do not see you as smart if you are willing to work many hours, practically full-time hours, and not get paid for it. Plus drive around and just do a lot of work. So anyhow, we're just going to make this a quick story. Another time I'll get into more of the details on that church hurt. But we were extremely hurt towards the end of working there. The deacons had asked Raul if he wanted to be the new assistant pastor because our pastor was leaving. And at first he said no. No, he's good. He didn't figure that people would want him. But a lot of people started asking him if he was going to be the next pastor, because we had been there for a long time and we loved the people and they loved us. And so, but we had, unfortunately, a nemesis at that church who wanted to be the senior pastor, who had never studied at Bible college or anything, and him and his wife were trying to push us out of the church. So long story short, it worked. We finally ended up leaving after taking care of the church for 3 months, again with no pay, leaving our business desolate with not a lot of income because we couldn't keep going on the business and running the church. So we used up our savings to do that, and then they got their pastor that was not elected. They just chose, this is who's going to be the pastor, and you're out. So that was fine. We kept doing a small group in our house, as we had been doing that before, and the people still went back to the church, and some of them said that they wanted us to start our own church, and we said no, that's not our thing. We're not going to start our own church. There's enough churches here in this small town, but we can continue doing our small groups. But people kept coming back to us for advice and different things, and that was really hard, especially for my husband, because he didn't want to step on the toes of the current pastor that was there, but there was no trust there yet with him, and so they kept coming back to us. But anyhow, we had an opportunity. We built custom cabinets. We had an opportunity to move here to Saskatchewan from Alberta, and little by little, my husband started blaming me for not being accepted there because of my past, because I wasn't a virgin when we got married. See the railway behind me? Just a little memory. One of our good memories when we were dating back in Mexico. We would walk along the railway, as there wasn't a lot of trains going by in the nighttime, and we'd look at the moon. And so it's a nice memory. Just thought I'd share that here. We moved from one small town in Alberta to another small town in Saskatchewan. So in doing this, it was good. We had our cabinet making shop. We went there to work with my uncle, as he had a ready to move business, RTM. Yep, ready to move, so houses that were ready to move. And then I couldn't stand thinking about money being wasted and only renting, so I wanted to buy something. The only thing that we could find was a rent-to-own that was a mobile home in a town 15 minutes away. Now there was another house, but an elderly lady had passed away there, and I don't know, I just didn't. There was also no double highway there, a divided highway, so I just felt better, and my husband had agreed on that house, trailer, mobile, whatever. So anyhow, he still blamed me deep inside, and then it came out in different ways that it was my fault because I wasn't a virgin at marriage, that we fought, and that we had a miserable life, and finances were bad, and so many things. But I feel like that was not the reason, and there are many reasons now. In this time that we were here, we moved to this new place, and there, to him, it was like moving backwards, I guess, which he didn't tell me in the beginning because he had agreed to it and everything. But when we first got married and moved into the other small town, we also lived in a mobile home for the first year that we were there. So there was just so many mixed feelings in him, and he couldn't bring himself to telling me, so it came out in anger and frustration and all sorts of different ways, until one day he did finally tell me that he feels like we're going backwards instead of forwards, and we're both people that like to move forward, not backwards, like to grow, but that's how he felt. And during this time, we had financial stress, we had emotional stress, and I was neglected emotionally, and thus didn't have the strength at the time. I tried to make sure that my kids were taken care of emotionally to the best of my ability, without having any tools and knowing how to work the pain that we both felt from the being crushed at the church. Like I said, that's a whole nother story, probably a series there in and of itself. But yeah, I tried to hold our marriage together. I tried to hold our family together. Every anniversary, I would make this kind of like a placemat, and I would set up the table all fancy and nice so that we could sit down together nicely. And he wasn't impressed. He's, oh yeah, you know, he didn't really care. But he did that, you know, superficial husband thing to sit down, ate his meal, whatever. On our 15th anniversary, our oldest child made us a wonderful meal. My husband was impressed because it was the first time that she had done something like this. And it was pasta, butter shrimp pasta. And so he was happy then, because anything that he did or she did made him happy. But there wasn't anything that I could do that would make him happy. So to me, looking back at that mobile home, we still own, but we don't live there. We've lived in Saskatoon for close to 7 years. Well, 7 years now. And to me, that was 10 years too much in that mobile home, and it was 10 years of, I will say, hell, for lack of better words. Hell for everybody. We all struggle, because if your parents are struggling, your kids are going to struggle, and that's what happened. So, needless to say, there was one point where I felt I was ready to go into a psych ward. It's not something I talk about often, but we both had our ideals. His ideal was me being a virgin at marriage. And like I said, the second one was worse than the first. Probably because he found out about it without me telling him, by asking a lot of questions. And then for me was to be loved eventually. You know, I was faithful to him. I did everything I could to make him happy. And yeah, we did have good moments. We did have good moments. I can't say that the whole 10 years was hell, but when a lot of it is, even half of it is, that's what you're going to feel. That's what you're going to see. That's what you're going to remember. And yeah, so is reconciliation possible now? So yeah, so after that time, make a long story short, we ended up closing our business there, kitchen cabinet business, and moving to Saskatoon. Well, there's a little bit of story in between that, but we'll get that to on another day. Our time here in Saskatoon, in some ways, was worse than the times before. I didn't know if we'd make it to our 27th anniversary. I left shortly after our 28th anniversary, but then went back a week or two later. May 2024, I wanted to leave again. And then September 2024 is when I asked my husband to leave, because I couldn't handle having my past held over me and put in my face constantly. I needed to be free of that. I needed to be able to heal from that, because I wasn't able to heal from that because my husband wouldn't allow me to heal, because he held it over my head as well. So once again, after all this hurt and all this time, is reconciliation really an option? Well, let's see. So, is reconciliation possible? Well, there's a few factors that need to take place first. Both people need to heal from past hurts, and both people need to make the effort into making changes and acknowledging where they need to change, And if they can't see where they need to change, then they need to ask, where have I been hurting you? Where have you felt neglect? What can I do to love you properly? And this goes on both parts. But I will say that I, for a long time, did not feel that I was loved, and I just stayed there out of commitment and to him and supposedly to my kids, but not commitment to myself. And that's where one thing the church does not tell you is that you need to be committed to yourself. You need to love yourself before anybody else. It doesn't mean to be selfish, but it does mean to put your boundaries up for yourself. So again, both need to heal. Both need to have the mindset of learning to love each other where they're at and how the other person wants to be loved, as well as willing to change and make things better so that in the marriage, it's a peaceful marriage. It's not a marriage of struggle and strife. There might be the odd time where there's an argument or a struggle, but it doesn't have to be daily. It doesn't have to be constantly, even monthly. Just if you can just talk things out calmly, that's the best way to go. So thanks for joining me today. We are working on it. I will tell you that we are working on it. We are working on reconciliation, but we're only 2 months in to that right now, and to working on reconciling. So 2 months compared to 29 years is not very long. And we just would have crossed our 30th year of being married, but in that time there was 7 months that we were separated for. So right now it's just continuing to work and grow and hoping that things will continue to improve as they have for the past 2 months, and hoping that we can continue repairing and fixing damages that are from the past and not continuing to hurt each other today. So thanks for joining me today. Just remember that reconciliation is not going to happen for everybody, but healing does need to happen, whether you're reconciled or not. So, yeah, take care. If you're in an abusive relationship, whether it's mentally or physically or spiritually, you don't need to stay there. Find a way out, find somebody who understands to talk to, and do what you need to do. So, take care. Love you lots. Bye-bye.